Hello and welcome to the fifth training spreadsheet session. Today what I thought we'd do is just look over everything that we need to do to create a spreadsheet that's of the correct standard and level for this course. So I'm going to go ahead and make one today, and then hopefully you should find this very useful. Obviously your data and everything will be completely different, and your formulas some may be the same, hopefully some will be different. But let's just go through the whole process from start to finish and just see how it evolves. So what I've got here is I've got some basic data for a fictional football team, and so this has just been recorded after each game. So what have we actually got here? So we've got the date the game was played, who they played, whether it was home or away, whether they won or lost, how many goals they scored, and how many goals against. So the first thing that I can immediately see is that, the initial formatting isn't great, and we've got some columns that are overlapping here. So one great trick, and one thing I use just constantly, is you press here in the top left hand corner between A and the 1, and this is the same as going select all. Okay, so that's the sort of shortcut for select all. Then I move my cursor till it's in between the first column. You can do it on any column, but I just move to the first column, and then it changes so that the divider, you get this sort of column divider symbol, and if you double click with everything selected, what it does is it changes the width of every column to make sure it fits the longest word in that column. So for example here, Cheshire Oaks High School is the longest word in the column, and that column has changed its length to fit there. Okay, and then much smaller columns, these have only got won or lost, so I think the title up there, the word result or venue, is actually the longest word in the column. Okay, so that's just a good start. So let's bold up the title. So I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to choose bold. Now it's not immediately available on my display, so I'm going to come down here, press this little down arrow, and I'm going to choose the bold button. Okay, and then also what Excel tends to do is if you view something, it tends to then show you. So I've obviously used the underline command at some point. Should we turn that on? Let's have a look. No. We'll turn that off. So something else I want to show you, I'm going to select all this. I'm going to come up to format, and something we've not looked at, but it's a very simple concept, is auto format. And what auto format does is it's got a bunch of predefined formatting things, and I'm just going to pick one, see how it looks. So I click it, press OK. Yeah, that's not bad. That looks a little bit better. I think I'd like some column dividers. So let me scroll down, and I'll choose this border. Okay, I'll have to do this manually for each one, but it'll only take me a second. And a lot of what you spend your time doing, I find, with spreadsheets, the actual qualifications, calculations are generally quite simple. You might spend a bit of time thinking about them, but a lot of the time you spend doing it is how everything looks. Now I'm glancing at this, and I actually want to have all these things centered in their columns. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to choose the center icon, and I think that's looking a bit better. And just for the time being, for my initial formatting, I'm just going to pause there with the formatting for the time being, and move on to some more calculations. So the first thing I want to do is some very basic sums that we've done many times. So let's calculate how many goals they've scored over the course of all the games. So I'm just going to add up all of these. So I'm going to do a formula. So I'm going to start with equals. Then I'm going to type sum, open brackets. I'm going to take the mouse, and I'm going to click from the top to the bottom. So that's from E2 to E39. And I'm just going to press return. So that means they've scored 69 goals. Okay, so let's label this sort of below goals scored. Okay, let's see how many they've lost. So let's just take that formula. We haven't protected the formula, so it's all relative. And so as it's relative, as I drag it to the right, the formula now changes to sum the F2 to F39, because we're now in the F column. So that's very very good. So let's go goals against. All right, so that's the total. And let's up here, let's start with the goal. Let's do, we'll have a bunch of formulas up here. So let's have goal difference to start off with. I'm just going to double click this gap to set the column width to the right column. And so how do we calculate goal difference? Well, it's a very simple basic maths formula. If we take the number of goals that they've scored and subtract from the number of goals that have been scored against them, then we'll have the number of, whether it's a plus or minus number. Obviously, hopefully plus, well, we can see it's 69, so it will be a plus number. So let's write that little formula. So equals, I want E14, and you see when I actually create a spreadsheet, I tend to use my mouse a lot, minus this one, F14, press return. So we've got a goal difference of plus 13 there. I can, just for the sake, I'll just change one of these figures to 20, and you can see it would show minus 7 if they, so it does show a minus sign if they do go into negative goal difference. So let's just undo that, put that back to how it should be. So let's see some other things. So let's see how many games they played. Okay, we've got no easy way of seeing how many games they've played. So let's just total number of games. Okay, and again, I'm just going to make that column a bit wider. So what's the total number of games? There's a few ways we could work this out, but the easiest way is just to count up the number of fields that we've got here. So let's do that. So we'll say equals, count, open brackets. Remember, count only counts numbers, doesn't count words. We have to use a different formula to count word filled in cells. So anyway, equals count E2 to E39. So there was 38 games. All right, well, of those 38 games, let's see how many games they've won. This is starting to get a bit more interesting. Number of games won. So, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to use the count formula, but we're going to use the count if formula. So it's based on count, so if we know how to use count, it's very similar, but we're just going to add in one tiny bit of extra information this time. So we've not done this before, so let's have a look. So, I'm going to say, what I want to do is I want to say equals count if, open brackets. Now, we're going to see something a tiny bit different than we've not seen before. If we look down at the little hint that pops up, it says range, so we're used to range, okay? So what is the range going to be on the number of games won? Well, I want to count this result column, okay? So my range is going to be from D2 down to D39, all right? And then what it had in that little pop-up is it had a comma. So I'm going to put a comma in, and now I'm going to say what I want it to count, okay? Now, I want it to count every time it says the word 1. So I can either type 1, W-O-N, but or I can click a cell that's got the word in. And as I like to do things the easiest way, I'm going to say, so this little formula here, this says count if, and then we give it the range, so count this area, right? Count from D2 down to D39, and what are you counting? You're counting whatever appears in the cell D5, and in cell D5 is the word 1. So let's hopefully, fingers crossed, yeah, great. So we've got 20 games won, all right? Let's do this for lost, the number of games lost. So number of games, I'll just edit 1 to lost. All right. Now then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this formula. So I'm just going to drag it down. And something good and bad's happened here. Okay, so why does that say 14? Because what it's now saying is, it's saying count from D3 to D40, all right? So it's gone down, because I've moved down 1. I've pulled, because I've gone from this cell, where, the cell was I6, and now I put it in I7. Everything's gone down 1 because we didn't tell it to be absolute cell references, all right? So let's let's check, let's delete that. All right, let's go back up and let's make these absolute cell references. And we've done that before, and we just use our little dollar sign. So we're going to go $D, $2, $D, $39. And I'm not going to dollar out the last one. All right, now I copy the formula again, drag it down. It says 15 this time, but let's just check. Let's check it's right. So we come up to the formula, and it's going to go from D2, okay, so this is good, down to D39, and we can just see with a visual inspection that blue box is telling me that it's covering the right area. And then it's gone down to, instead of it choosing the word that was in D5, now it's just luck really that the next one down happened to have the word lost in it. But, you know, that's great. So what we're now doing is we're looking over the same range, but we're now looking for the word lost instead of the word won. All right? And we can see from the formula that there's 15. So we won 20 and lost 15. Okay? So we've just taken the countif one stage further. Let's do a couple more, and we'll get a better idea. So let's go for number of home games. Let's have a look at that. Number of home games. So same thing. I'll write it out from scratch this time. Equals countif, open brackets. What's my range? My range is this column this time. Oh, I've just thought of something else. Well, I'll go back. I'll do that in a second. Okay. And what do I want to say? Well, this time I won't use a cell reference. I'll just type what I want, and I want to know when it says the word home. And you have to put things in quotes. Excel likes any word in formulas to be in a quote. Any word that, you know, your user inputted word sort of thing. So obviously don't write the countif in quotes, but when you're including a word that you're searching for or counting or something like that, you put it in quotes. Okay? And then let's see how many home games there were. So there were 25 home games. So let's have a look at away games. So I'll just I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V. I'm going to change the word home to away. Okay, and I'll write out the formula again just so we get an idea of it. Equals countif, open brackets. What's my range? That's where I want to choose it from. That's the area that it's going to look. And this time, press the comma. Now it says criteria. Okay, so what's my criteria? What am I counting? I'm counting anytime it says away. So open brackets, AWAY, open quotes, I'm sorry. So there were 13 away games, so it was quite a disproportionate number of home games, so that's always a bonus. What I have just noticed is I didn't do the number of games drawn. I noticed that here we have 20, here we have 15, but we can see that the number of games is 38. So let's add in the number of games drawn. But I don't want to lose my formatting, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this out rather than copy. I'm going to cut, Control X, and I'm just going to move it down 1. I'm going to paste it there. Okay? So let's do number of games drawn. All right, and the number of games drawn. So what's that going to be? So let's take our formula, drag it down, and it's gone to 20 again because it's saying it's counting what's in D7. So let's see what's in D7, and D7 says 1. That's what's in D7. Okay, so let's just change that to drawn. So where's there a drawn? A drew, sorry. A drew, there's one in D14 here. Okay, so I'm going to change that D7, and you can see it's highlighted in green there, the word 1. Well, let's go down to D14 where it's the word drew. So I'm just saying count in the blue box the number of times the word drew appears. That's what this formula says. Count in the blue area how many times the word drew, and I think it's 3. Great. So there we go. So we've just done a little bit more of a complicated formula there, but very useful. And countifs are pretty good. I use countifs quite a lot. Okay. So the last thing, two more things I want to add to this. I'm just gonna come up here and just double click on this again, it's just got a little bit, you know, I've added some longer text in, so I just did that little double click trick. Let's work out the number of points for the season. Okay, so let's put in total points. And I'll just write under here, I wouldn't normally do this, but just to make it set. For a win equals 3, and a draw equals 2, no, a draw equals 1, and a loss equals 0. All right, I'll just have that there just as a reference. And then so this should be quite a simple formula. So we're going to take the number of wins we've had, which is 20. We're going to multiply that by 3. And we're going to add to it the number of draws. So draws is 1, so you get 1 point for a draw. So we've had 3 draws. So there's no point in multiplying 3 by 1. So we'll just take the number of games we've won, times it by 3, and add on the number of games we've drawn. Okay, and that will give us our total number of points. So let's write that as a formula, quite a simple formula. So it's equals, and we're just back to basic maths here. So I'm going to say, take the number of games we've won, so that's what's in cell I6, multiply by 3, and add to that the number of games drawn, which is in I8. Okay, and hit return. So the total number of points is 63. Okay, so that's quite useful. And just one other thing I'd like to show you. You can do adding and subtracting and things with dates as well. I don't know whether we've actually, I don't think we've come across this before. So I just want to know, the number of days in the season. Okay, I just want to know the number of days in the season. I don't like that formatting appearing on there, so I'm just going to clear the formatting on that cell. We'll do some more formatting. So how would you work out the number of days in the season? Well, if you know the last day, which was the 18th of the 5th, and you know the first day, well, you can just subtract the one from the other. So it's a basic subtract, and the answer it will give you will be in days. So Excel can deal with dates. You can add and subtract dates just like you can add and subtract numbers. Let's just have a quick look at that. So I'm going to say equals A39, and from that I'm going to subtract the first day we started, which was A2, and let's see how many days. Interesting things happened here. The answer has shown itself as the 15th of September 1900. Okay? And the reason it's done that is because I formatted this whole column to be dates. Okay? And so I don't want this to be a date, I want this to be a number. I want this to be the number of days. And so, like before when we formatted a cell, for different things such as currency or fractions and different things like that, I'm just going to say it's a number. And then I'm going to press OK. And now, look, again, it's a 2-digit number, so I don't want it to be to 2 decimal places, there's no need for it. So I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to format the cells again. And I'm just going to take out the decimal places. I don't want there to be any decimal places because numbers don't come in days don't come in halves. Okay, so we've got 259 days in the season. Okay. So there we go. We've done quite a few different calculations, but we've got some good statistical numbers here. So let's look at just tidying this up a little bit. So I'm going to take this area here. Okay. Shall I keep? Yeah, I'll keep that there. So I'm going to take this area, and I'm just going to draw a box around it. I'm going to draw a thicker box this time. Draw a thicker box around it. And I'm not sure about whether to keep this in or not. I'll do it. I'll just make it wider, just so it has it all. Okay, and then let's fill these in with a light grey, each one that we've done. See how that looks initially. And sometimes, these things don't always look good. Okay, and then I'm going to select this row and I'm going to put the thick border in just to give me a border on both sides. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and border it up some more. Well, and it's not necessarily the fastest process in the world. Okay, and what I might do is make this a light colour. Let's make this. Shall I make it the same light grey? Yeah, it's just a little. I want the people to see the the information more. So I'm also going to make it, I'm going to make these bits one size bigger in the font, and I'll probably have to just extend that column out. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better there. Let's put a box around the totals down here, and let's make them, let's bold those numbers up. Okay, and I'll also centre them. Okay, I might draw a box around there. I don't really know what I'm, I'm just defining areas, and I find the more you define an area, often the better it looks. So I'm just defining up a bit of area here. Let's try painting that in grey, and let's do these two in grey as well. It's a bit of a all-round grey, but never mind. But we've just given it some formatting. Now another thing I've noticed is this wants to be centre aligned as well, just to make it look a little bit better. And another thing we could do with is we could certainly do with having a title on here, but I haven't left enough room. So what I need to do is I need to select everything I've done. I'm just going to move it down a little bit. So actually, no, there's a better way of doing it. I was going to cut and paste it, but I can come up here and I'm going to just choose insert. I'm just going to do that twice. Okay, and then up here I'm going to just type in, I don't know, football results for 2010 season. Okay, and I'm going to select all these rows, and I'm going to use my merge and center button. Okay, so I'll put it in the middle of all those, so I quite like that. It's quite important, the title, so I'm going to go for a bigger size. I'm going to bold it up, and I think that'll do. Okay, so far so good. We've got some formatting going on just to make it more presentable. We've done some nice formulas. So now let's add a graph to this. So I'm going to make a graph, just a simple graph, just on the number of goals that have been scored during the season. So let's have a look. So let's select the data that I want to use. So I'm just going to have this data here. I'm going to press the chart button. I'm just going to go for a very simple column chart. Yeah, so what have we got here? The series, I don't want that just to say the word series, so let's say goals scored. Okay, I'll choose whether I want to actually use that in a bit. So by filling that in, it's also put that as the title. So the x-axis, remember the x goes along the bottom, so that's the number of games. And the y-axis, that's going to be goals scored. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I have a quick flick through, see if I want anything else. I don't think I really need a little legend there because there's only one thing, so I'm going to turn off the legend. Okay, give myself a... What else? I don't want to include the data table, so yeah, I'm happy that that's it. Choose the next. Let's put it in its own pet sheet in this workbook. I'm going to create a new sheet for it. So yeah, just press finish. Okay, I'll show you why I've done that. So what I didn't want to have is I wanted it's a big graph. There's lots of information here, and sometimes if you cram it in, you're not going to see all that information particularly clearly. Okay, so now we've got our own chart in a completely different tab down here at the bottom. And one of the great things about that is now that we're now working across multiple sheets, which is one of the criteria. Okay, so these results are being pulled from this page here. Okay, so I'm now working across multiple sheets, and I think chart is a little bit. I don't think I actually described that particularly well. So let's call it goals scored graph. I can spell goals scored graph. Okay, so I've got football results, and I'm I'm going to go a bit further. I'm going to capitalise my F. And again, it's all about the presentation. So I've spelled graph wrong, or I've got an extra T somewhere. So there we go, goals scored and football results. So hopefully that graph was easy enough, and we've already covered how you graph. And so we can, the number of games they've played, 38 games, and you can immediately see now, it's a simple graph, but you can immediately see straight away any of the games where they haven't scored any goals. Here, get the 12th game of the season, look at that, they absolutely romped home there, seven goals. Okay, and we could do things like, we could easily overlay the number of against goals scored with this, but that might look confusing with this amount of data on. Okay, so that's really good. Come back to the main menu. So we're coming up to the end now. I've just had a quick flick through the criteria just to check that everything's there. One of the things that it asks is that you insert a picture or a logo or something, and obviously this only has to be on one of your graphs or charts. So let's have a go at doing that. So I'm going to go insert picture from file. Okay, then I'm going to navigate to it, which is under here. So I've got this. It's a fake football team. So I've just got this this logo here that says fake. Okay, but this could easily be a corporate logo or something like that. So I just want that small. I'm just going to keep playing with that until and all I'm doing is I'm just dragging these corner handles around. Okay, so that, and I don't want it to take up too much room. Do you know what? I might move these down one. So I'm just going to go cut, and then I'm going to go paste. Just move that down. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. I might make that a tiny bit bigger now. Yeah, I like that. And the last thing I want to do is add some information to the header or footer. So I'm going to go to the page setup. I'm going to choose header, and in the footer I'm just going to put what should I put? I'll put created by Fake Team Inc. 2012. Okay, press OK, do a little print preview. And there we go, we get the Created by Fake Team Incorporated 2012. While I'm in print preview, I'm also just checking that it will print out quite nicely, and I can see that the first page will be fine there. The second page, not much data on there. The spreadsheet's actually a little bit large to fit all on one page, so I could possibly now have a look at maybe moving this information and putting it lower down. If I really wanted to print it out and get it all on the page. I'm also just now scanning across my spreadsheet in general, just seeing if there's any problems with it, and I don't think there are. I've got no little exclamation marks that might tell me that a formula is broken or something like that. And so there we go. So that's taken about half an hour, and we've produced a spreadsheet there that easily is good enough for the criteria. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you all next week. Cheers, bye-bye.